You're listening to The Pump Fake. All right, and welcome into the Pump Fake, everybody. We are powered by FanDuel. Jarrett Bailey here with you, as always. That is the coach of our program, Todd Haley. Good to see you, pal. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing my best pump fake.
Yeah, no, that's good. Maybe we'll have to work that into the intro. I'll get a hold of our people and our graphic stuff. All right, week 17. We are in the penultimate week of the NFL season. A lot of teams have already clinched postseason spots. There's still a few spots up for grabs when it comes to both the AFC and NFC. And a few games with big implications this week. So we'll barrel through that today. So if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. If you're listening as a podcast, comment, review, and yeah, get us just skyrocketing up these all-important podcast charts I keep hearing about. But before the end of the season. So let's dive into it. Let's start with the Saturday game. Let's go with the Texans and the Chargers. The Chargers favored by 1.5. Texans defense right now, really over the last 2 months, playing out of their minds. We've seen what Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and really the secondary have been able to do. Derek Stingley having a great year. And getting CJ Stroud back, what that has looked like for the Texans. But most importantly, their defense really carrying them after that 0-3 start, getting them back into a position to get a playoff spot. We don't see things like that too often, Todd, where a team starts 0-3 and then claws their way all the way back to get in this position.
Yeah, it's really hard when you eliminate your margin of error like they did. But as you said, this defense now, Jarrett, is legit. I mean, they are fast. They can cover. They can rush. You see more Texans uniforms at the ball than you see in most games. I mean, they are. You can't say enough about the job D'Amico Ryans and his staff has done. But the talent acquisition. I mean, this is a loaded defense that, as you said, tried to help keep them or tried to help them get out of the hole a little bit. The offense wasn't holding up their end of the deal. Then CJ goes down. But I really think, CJ's sitting and watching a few weeks like he got to. It had to do a lot of good for him just to understand he doesn't have to be a hero. When you have a defense like this, I mean, you just need to, do what's required without beating yourself. And I think he grew a lot during that time sitting out, watching him win games without him in there. So, there's still a couple issues with how well can they run the football, but the offensive line has come a long ways. CJ's playing good. Nico Collins is a beast. I love watching that dude play, but the defense is really the star of the show. So I've been saying it for weeks. Look out for the Texans. This is a dangerous, dangerous team because we know defense in the playoffs or this stage of the season, because they're not technically in yet, I don't think, but they're a team to look out for without a doubt.
Yeah, and looking at the other side of this thing, the Chargers, who, after it was kind of up and down at one point in this season, especially with all the injuries up front, Herbert getting hit a ton, but they've really found a run game in their own offensively. Herbert's played fantastic, and they're holding on to the top wild card spot right now. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like, though, with all the injuries going up against this Texans defense. I think that's something that, if there is a route to a blowout in this game, or even not a blowout, just a one-sided win for Houston where the result's never really in doubt, it's because they're just able to get constant pressure on Herbert.
Yeah, in the NFC, I feel a little more confident when we talk about who we think we could see in the Super Bowl. The AFC, I don't have any idea right now. I think this matchup, though, could tell us a lot. It really could. Whoever comes out the winner in this one will really impact, at least the way I feel about that team, because the Chargers, like you said, losing Slater before the season starts, Alt going down. I mean, how about that? He makes the Pro Bowl and he played 5 or 6 games.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's something, isn't
it? But Herbert showing off toughness. This guy's a stud. I worried whether they had the weapons outside, but you got guys like Quinshon Johnson coming around, and Allen has been a big repeat Charger. But getting Hampton back, I think, is huge. He went down and missed significant time. They're kind of getting that mojo going back in the running game. It's taking some heat off of Justin Herbert. This is another team. Like I said, Jarrett, I don't know if it makes sense, but if the Chargers win this game and it looks convincing, I might put the Chargers at the top of the AFC in my opinion. If the Texans win it convincingly, I could easily put them up at the top. So a lot of things to be determined here in these last couple of weeks, but this game's must-see TV for sure.
Yeah, and you look at some of the throws Herbert was making last week against Dallas, where it's just when he's dialed in, and it doesn't matter the coverage. There's no coverage for a perfect throw, and he had so many. The touchdown to Johnston over the top of the Cowboys cornerback, the running game getting Hampton back. When the offense is dialed in, the way that the Chargers have been, it's pretty hard to stop. So intrigued to see how this one goes down. I'm going to hesitantly pick the Chargers to win. Home game. Offensively, they've been playing very well. I think that both quarterbacks obviously being very good in CJ. And by the way, the Texans offensive line deserves a lot of credit too for the turnaround they've had. I think since Stroud came back, they've come into their own a little bit. I mean, you go back to that first month of the season where it felt like Stroud, as soon as he touched the ball, he was getting killed every play. They've certainly done a lot to clean up their own act. I'm going to pick the Chargers very hesitantly because I think this one could go either way.
I'm going to hesitantly pick the Texans.
Okay, there we go.
But this could be one of those, last team to have the football or last quarterback to have the football very easily. I think these two are really well coached teams that understand situational football. They're not generally going to beat themselves. Maybe the turnover battle is going to be huge. Number one, that'll probably be the first thing that determines it. But who can run the football or stop the run the best? Probably in my mind.
Yeah, and I think that with the Chargers, they just have a little bit more of a run game that would worry me. It's not to take anything away from Nick Chubb, Woody Marks, or whoever the Texans have that they're going to use as that bell cow in this game. But I think that offensively, there's a little bit more that scares me with the Chargers than there is for Houston, and I think that ends up being what determines that. The Saturday night game, the Ravens travel to Lambeau to face the Packers. The Packers clinch a playoff spot after the Lions loss to the Vikings on Thursday eliminates them from playoff contention. The Packers 4.5-point favorites. TBD on Lamar Jackson and potentially TBD on Jordan Love with Green Bay clinching a postseason spot. Maybe they decide to take it slow with him. But a game for Baltimore where it's a must win. If they lose, they're done. And it could come down to Snoop Huntley needing to have a big game in Lambeau.
Yeah, I would doubt Jordan Love makes it back. I mean, and maybe a couple years ago when the whole concussion protocol started, you'd see guys make it a week, make it back the next week. We're not seeing that very often, Jared. I mean, they're being much more conservative, keeping guys, which is a good thing. But that was a real shot he took. Jordan Love did last week, so I would doubt he plays. I think Malik Willis now with a full week of preparation with what I saw in a relief position last week where he probably had very few reps and still did a really commendable job. He'll have a chance to be productive, I would think, and the coaches will have a better chance to utilize his ability to run with the football. So, this is and then the Ravens, I don't know, a lot of noise swirling around Baltimore, but as I said, this is a prideful group. I do not expect this team to go down easy. I would expect a heavy dose of King Henry and just hope he holds on to the football for the Ravens' sake, because he's just had some fumbles this year that have been killers. And he's a prideful guy that's running his butt off for where he is in his career. So I would expect a heavy dose of Huntley and Henry, and then but this is a pick'em game to me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know which way I'm feeling. I feel Baltimore's desperation. I think Green Bay is probably the better team, but when you're talking about both teams playing without their starting quarterback, that's a big deal.
Yeah. You touched on the noise with Baltimore. I mean, there's a lot of it right now surrounding. All right, is John Harbaugh, is this going to be his last year with the Ravens? Considering they've had Lamar for a while, they've reached an AFC title game, haven't reached a Super Bowl yet. The fan unrest really unraveling over these last couple weeks. And you look at all the fourth quarter losses that have kind of become a trope when it comes to them. I do wonder if this is the end of the Harbaugh era in Baltimore and what that looks like potentially without him. But also, there's a lot of speculation now that, hey, if they move on from Harbaugh, maybe they just completely start over. They trade Lamar Jackson for a king's ransom. Mike Preston of the Baltimore Sun wrote a very long piece about this, the potential of potentially moving him for a bunch of draft picks and maybe just starting completely all over.
Yeah, I think everything's on the table. I'm in the Delaware Beach area, so trust me, Jared, I got every Raven fan everywhere I go, hearing them, and they're I almost put them in the Philadelphia Eagle category of fans, but they got a lot of opinions. But yeah, I mean, I think everything's on the table. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I mean, this team's been very good for a long time. Different things have popped up at the wrong time, like whether it's Lamar getting hurt late in the year when they had one of the better teams. I mean, he's got a couple MVPs. I don't know, but it is they kind of are a team and probably coming up on transition, and you don't want to get caught behind the eight ball when you're in that situation. Then you might end up looking like the Saints or some of these teams that held on too long. They're a prideful team. I don't know. How this game goes we could probably have a better conversation next week.
Yeah. All right. Let's stick in the AFC North, though. The Steelers traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. We touched on this good bit in our Steelers-Browns preview over on Believe in Steelers. Everybody can go and check that out. I think Pittsburgh wins a low-scoring game. No DK Metcalf this week for Pittsburgh. Myles Garrett chasing the sack record. And I'm sure Browns fans would love if he could get it against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh wins a low-scoring, probably bad weather game. They can clinch the AFC North with a victory, and I think that they get it done this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but we know right there on Lake Erie it can be pretty hazardous to everybody's health. But when I talk about these games, I always start with the coach and the quarterback. And it's just there's not a scenario, even though they're not playing directly against each other. I get it, but I just can't see Aaron Rodgers losing to a rookie quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. But ultimately, I think whoever's defense plays the best probably wins because we know both teams can take the football away, and create big plays for the offense, put them in good field position. So I'm with you. I lean to a low-scoring Steeler victory.
So pulling up the weather report for Cleveland, Sunday, strangely enough, a high of 53 on Sunday in Cleveland, but 95% chance of what looks like thunderstorms. So, that kind of gets balanced out in the wash when it comes. All right, a little bit warmer, but it's also going to be pouring down rain. So, the stereotypical AFC North late season matchup, if you will.
Yeah, and that rain might turn to sleet at some point. Haven't been there a number of times when it was supposed to be okay, and then we're like, "What? I'm freezing. I didn't wear enough clothes."
The other big one this week, it's the Sunday night game. Big ramifications in the NFC. The Bears traveling to Santa Clara, take on the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers 3-point favorites against Chicago. Coming off just a insane win against Green Bay. Caleb Williams played superb in the final 5 minutes. Great touchdown pass to get there. Kind of their signature win on the year. There's a lot of doubt surrounding this team and the legitimacy of their record. And to overcome a 10-point deficit in the final 5 minutes, go into overtime and win, and have that quarterback play as well as he did in that final stretch, I think really legitimized them and, puts them in that bubble of teams that can come out of the NFC. The 49ers, though, Brock Purdy, 5 touchdown passes on Monday night against the Colts. He played a tremendous game in his own right. considering all the injuries that the 49ers have had this year, losing Nick Bosa, losing Fred Warner on the defensive side of the ball, their two best defenders, no Brandon Ayuk all year. And the fact that they've weathered this storm and have played as well as they have, incredibly commendable job. Maybe the best coaching job that Kyle Shanahan has done since he's been at the helm.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches you got to bring up when you talk about Coach of the Year, but I put Kyle right there at the top because of all those things you just stated. I mean, what they've overcome and to be sitting where they're sitting is huge. But at the same time, Ben Johnson, what he's done for a team that's been beleaguered for a long time, run through coaches, quarterbacks, all that, the growth I've seen from Caleb. Which I've really seen it here in this second half of the season. He's got to be right up there. But, this is one of those stepping stone games for the Bears. Last week was also to go into Lambeau and win, or no, that was at Chicago, to win against the Packers. They haven't done that very many times. That was a huge win, but you turn the page and, if they can go into Santa Clara, tough place to play also, and get a win against this team that's a little more seasoned maybe than they are. They have guys on the roster that have played in the biggest game of the year, in Brock Purdy and some of those guys. So, a little more seasoned team, but, I've been really impressed by this Bears team. That game last week was crazy. Went from 0.5% chance of winning.
Yeah, something absurd.
Onside kick later. Now they're throwing the deep ball to DJ Moore. So, they got it going. They're excited. They got a lot of emotion. But this will be a real test. And the Niners, we know if they can win out, they'll be the number one seed, and everybody will have to go to Santa Clara.
Yeah, and for the Bears, at least, I mean, if they hold on and win the division, I mean, going to Soldier Field in January, there's very few places teams want to go less than that. I mean, you were in Chicago for a little bit. That's a pain in the butt place to play when it's cold. So those fans would certainly be in full voice should they get to host a playoff game.
Oh, yeah. And we saw it on full display last week. I mean, that place was rocking.
Oh, yeah.
I was part of some last-minute comebacks, interceptions for touchdowns and overtime and things like that, Hail Marys. So
I mean, were you there when Mike Brown did it in back-to-back weeks?
Yeah, back-to-back weeks. And we had a onside kick that James Allen recovered, I believe. Or no, James Allen caught the Hail Mary, and then we won in overtime. So the Bears fans love their Bears. They've been waiting a long time, so I just think that it'll continue to ratchet up.
All right, let's go to Buffalo then. 1.5 favorite over the Philadelphia Eagles. Probably the biggest star-studded game of the week, I would say. You got the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. You got the reigning MVP Josh Allen, both fighting for better playoff position. Both teams have already gotten into the postseason. But for Buffalo, trying to win and get a little bit more help to win the AFC East for the 6th consecutive time and be able to ensure that they host another playoff game. For Philadelphia, they've already clinched the NFC East. And now just playing for seeding purposes and trying to get the highest seed possible. Philadelphia, certainly in my mind, the more talented team. With Buffalo, it certainly feels like each and every week it's, all right, let's have hopefully James Cook, do what he did against Cleveland and run for a bunch of yards, have Josh Allen be Josh Allen and just pull a lot of incredible plays out of nowhere. So I think I lean Philadelphia here. I know that Buffalo, last 2 weeks of their stadium. So that's going to mean a lot to those fans. But Philadelphia, I think just more talented, probably going to lean with the Eagles here.
Yeah, it's definitely number one on my watch list, this game. The Eagles, I agree with you, more talented, but they just haven't figured it out yet or put it all together, which is an important part of this process of going through an NFL season. I think they tend to listen to some outside noise. 1 week we're going to throw it to A.J. Brown because he's unhappy. The next week we're going to try to run it. Jalen Hurts is no good, so then he's trying to prove himself. I don't know. It hasn't quite come together yet with this team, in my opinion. But they are really talented and very dangerous because if they start to kind of find that identity like they had last year, look out for the Eagles. But the Bills at home,
that's a tough place to play.
Josh Allen being my guy.
Oh, hey, you don't got to tell me that, man. You and I might be the two biggest Josh Allen humans in the NFL like conversation media world. Like it's no doubt that he's my guy too. And so I'm probably I'm leaning Philadelphia. I'm gonna pick a little bit more with my heart here and probably pick Buffalo, just because we know what he can do.
I'm torn. I hired Nick Sirianni when I became a head coach out of IUP Division III football. So I'm proud of that branch on my coaching tree, which is just one branch. But I don't know. I'm with you though on, the Bills can run the football. If they can run the football efficiently, like they've been doing against this quality defense, because the Eagles do have a really good defense, and Josh can do Josh-like things. This is a huge game. I think it's huge for the Bills trying to stay up with the Patriots and the whole AFC in general, and it's huge for the Eagles in trying to get themselves firing on all cylinders going into the playoffs. So huge game. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and for Buffalo, I mean, we talked about the help that they need. The Patriots play the Jets in New York, and then they close out against Miami, a team who starting Quinn Ewers. So they're hoping for a mini miracle that New England doesn't win these last two games. The problem for Buffalo, that I've seen throughout this season, and really over the last few seasons, is the slow starts defensively. We saw Shadur Sanders and the Browns just march down the field on them to start the game. They were down 21-7 at one point, or 21-0 to the Patriots. It's the slow starts that, all right, if you do that in the regular season, you can maybe come back and do it. If it carries on into the postseason, though, if you get into a 3-score deficit early, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to come back and just, hit that magic button where you decide to wake everybody up and turn it on. So that's my worry for this game, is that Philadelphia is able to start off fast and Buffalo's not going to be able to overcome the talent that they have to get a win.
Oh, I think it's a great point, because that's kind of been their bugaboo, as you said. Even Josh, at times looks like Superman, and then other times looks a little withdrawn and not quite participating like you expect to see him. And I don't know if some of that is in the past, it was all on his shoulders and he thrived. Now that they can run the football a lot or run it really well with James Cook, which is awesome and been a big part of their success the last 2 years, maybe it's taken a little of his mojo away. I don't know, but I agree with you. They got things to clean up themselves. So that's why I think this Eagles-Bills matchup is a huge one.
Yeah, like I said, I'll pick with my heart a little bit here and say that the Bills pull it off. Where are you leaning here?
I'm leaning Bills at home. The sentimental part of last couple games in their original home. So, and they're watching that other giant stadium go up right next door. So the Bills Mafia will be in full effect. So I would lean Bills.
All right. AFC South matchup, Jacksonville heading to Indianapolis. They are 5.5-point favorites against Phillip Rivers and the Colts. How blown away are you by what Phillip Rivers has done these last 2 weeks?
Completely blown away. I have so much respect for Phillip Rivers even before this all happened. Being in the AFC West, having to compete against him, one of the greatest trash talkers of all time. I mean, he'd make a visit to our sideline probably every quarter just to run his mouth. No dirty words ever, but as competitive of a guy as I've ever been around or seen play. So completely blown away with this second half of his or part 2 of his story. I said this on Sirius today. I don't play favorites, but I wish they would have won one of those last 2 games. Yeah. Maybe pulled the Seahawks game out. They had a chance last week, but Brock Purdy was a surgeon, just dissected that Colts defense. So as long as Phillip Rivers is out there on the field, I am rooting for him every single play. So even though I really like what the Jaguars are doing and I'm a believer now, I am fully rooting for the Colts. That's not who I'm necessarily picking, but that's who I'm rooting for.
Yeah, and Yeah, I wrote a piece on Sporting News just talking about this latest run for the Jaguars because it felt like nobody really cared. But you look at the numbers that they're putting up, and you look at the numbers Trevor Lawrence has put up over this last month: 14 total touchdowns, no picks in this span. That the Jaguars have just been unstoppable. They've won each of the last 4 games by at least 2 scores. So I think there's a little bit of doubt surrounding them because this is a Jacksonville Jaguars team that hasn't had a lot of prolonged success. They were playing, somewhat lesser teams in that process, but beating Denver on the road by 2 touchdowns in the manner that they did it, getting contributions from a bunch of different receivers in the process. I'm a big believer in this Jaguars team, and with the defense being very splashy when it comes to takeaways and very opportune with those takeaways. I won't be surprised whatsoever if they can make a run to the AFC title game.
Yeah, I was on the fence, Jarrett. I really was, but I was on the fence only because I thought they were sustaining on defense with opportunistic takeaways. They've continued that. That's what they do. That's now their identity. And I was on the fence because Trevor Lawrence, to me, up until here the last month, was just looked like an average guy. He didn't look like a number 1 overall pick. He's completing 55% of his passes. The ball's not going where it should go. It's inaccurate at times, but that's all changed. And again, with a new coach, a new play caller, and Liam Cohen, he's done a phenomenal job with the run game, which they couldn't run the ball to save their lives last year. They can run the football, and he's done a phenomenal job with Trevor. Not always pat on the back type coaching. I mean, he gets after him, but it's working. And I have, after that win in Denver, I'm with you. I'm a believer. So I think this is definitely a team in the AFC you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, and we saw it at times this year where like Liam Cohen would get on Trevor Lawrence, and I think that was a good point that you made. That sometimes it's needed to kind of get like Sam Weish and Boomer Esiason, right? Where sometimes it was oil and water, but sometimes it mixed really, really well, and you got the results necessary. So I think Liam Cohen deserves an incredible amount of praise because he's done a tremendous job with this team and completely changing the culture in year 1. I think James Gladstone, Tony Baselli in the front office deserve a lot of credit for the risks that they've taken to get good players. And doing this in year 1 has been incredibly impressive to see from Jacksonville. So easy team to root for there. I am going to pick them to win, although I'm in your boat. Like, I would love to see Phil take this thing down to the wire and somehow get them in as the 7th seed. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Jags should win. I am openly rooting for the Colts and Philip Rivers. So, but I think this Jags team is legit. You're exactly right on the coaching thing. You could throw in Parcells and Phil Simms. How many clips have we seen of those two going after each other? That is coaching. Everybody doesn't always respond to a pat on the back, and everything's going to be okay. Certain guys need to be pushed, prodded, coached hard, and Trevor may be one of those guys, but it's showing up.
Yeah, we still see, a decent amount of coaches, whether it be head coaches or OCs in the NFL, where they'll get on some asses about it. Like Brian Daboll infamously did it with Josh in Buffalo, and it led to him getting a head job with the Giants. Obviously, didn't end the way that he would have liked to, but there are still guys who understand that sometimes it can't just be like, all right, everything's fine. You got to get on some dudes.
Oh, coaching is such a big part. You can't do it with just great players. You got to have you got to have both really good coaches that understand the buttons that need to be pushed, and you need really good players, obviously. But when you have that combination and that trust is built, where even Ben Johnson, he wasn't patting Caleb on the butt. He was calling him out nationally, but Caleb has responded. And generally, players want to be coached. They want to be pushed to be the best that they can be, as long as they feel or know that you as a coach have their best interest in mind.
All right, let's go to Carolina, the Panthers, and we talk about surprises. They ended the season on a high note last year. They had a big win in Atlanta. Bryce Young played very well. But they have overcome a deficit of their own, taking over the lead in the NFC South. After defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those two will play each other in the final week of the season as well. They are 7.5-point home dogs to the Seattle Seahawks. They've been big underdogs in games before. They were big underdogs against Green Bay. They were ginormous underdogs against the Rams at home. Both those games that they won. I don't know if they win. I'm not taking Seattle to cover, though, when it comes to this, because Carolina's shown each time that they've been big underdogs that they'll at least keep it close.
Yeah, Dave Canales, you got to give him credit what he's done in the last couple of years. Number one, the run game, the defense has improved tremendously. Bryce Young's shown growth. I mean, he has a propensity for 2-minute type offensive plays. He's starting to lead a lot of comebacks, so the team doesn't ever feel like they're dead in the water. So you got to give Dave Canales credit. I'm sure he has spent most of the week talking at some point or another about that. Odds that are not in their favor, because players tend to get heated up about that a little bit. So on paper, the Bucs playing the Dolphins, Seahawks at the Panthers, you'd say it's going to come down to next week, Bucs Panthers. But this is the NFL. It's been a crazy year. The Bucs, I don't know. They got all their big dogs back and still couldn't figure out a way to win the game. Baker's been a little inconsistent here down the stretch. So I don't know, but I would definitely lean Seahawks. I think they're the better team. But as you said, the Panthers have done some kind of crazy things this year.
It's one of the crazier in-season collapses we've seen from a team in a while, where it felt like Tampa was fully in control of the division. At one point, they were the only team over 500 midway through the season. It felt like the division was all but wrapped up. And then, I understand that they've had some injuries, but they overcame it in the early portions of the year when, Tez Johnson was stepping in for Mike Evans and playing really well. And they get all these guys back. And we saw it after the Atlanta game when they were leading by multiple scores in the fourth quarter. Todd Bowles just MFing this and S'ing that. And he was pissed. And I think that we're starting, that was kind of the insight into the frustration with that team right now.
Yeah, there were a lot of beep outs in that press conference.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is with Tampa. I know Todd Bowles is a heck of a coach. I know Baker was in the MVP conversation earlier in the year, and I thought when they got Evans back, specifically Godwin, that they would start rolling, and it hasn't happened. So, it's got to happen here fast. And this Dolphins team's kind of a weird one. You never know what team's going to show up there. So, short trip for Tampa, that makes it nice, but they got to go take care of business and then let the chips fall in that Seattle Panther game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last week with Miami, Quinn Ewers threw a pair of interceptions. I don't know if Mike McDaniel has said that he will start again. It might be Zach Wilson, so don't quote me on that. But regardless, it'll be a backup quarterback in for Miami. If they're able to run the ball with Etienne and, sustain, try to control the tempo of that themselves and try to keep Tampa Bay's offense off the field, tire out that defense, that they have a shot. They're 5.5-point dogs at home. I'm going to pick Tampa to win, but this is a team like we just pointed out has been in free fall for the last month and a half.
Yeah, they're lacking confidence, and I've been in those buildings. When you start stringing losses together, you feel like, how are we ever going to win a game, even when you have a good team? It's hard to win, but I'm leaning heavy Tampa also. I would like to see Zach Wilson. I was surprised he didn't start last week, but they're trying to.
I think Zach Wilson was surprised too.
Yeah, I think they're trying to figure their own issues out as they head into the offseason.
Looks like Mike McDaniel going to return as head coach. Is that a good move or a bad move in your mind?
I like Mike. I think he's a heck of an offensive coach. As a head coach, I don't know. I'm still, the proof's got to be in the pudding. You got to see some big wins, at critical times and critical moments. So, it's good for the team, but who's going to be the quarterback? What's going to happen with Tua? They're in for a lot of turmoil here over the next year or two.
That they are. All right. So that is, let's touch on the Monday night game actually real quick, as the Rams still fighting for playoff spot. They are 8.5-point favorites on the road against a Falcons team who had expectations coming into the year. We saw Michael Penix a little bit at the tail end of 2024. He gets injured. Kirk Cousins then comes back in. They've been eliminated from playoff contention, still trying to play hard, but I would assume they're going to be in transition as well in this offseason, maybe bringing in some new leadership. And for the Rams, a team that coming off of just a devastating loss to the Seahawks, where they were leading by a bunch and it falls apart. You seem especially not happy about that in terms of just how that game was maybe coached, or just your thoughts on that game real quick.
Just shocked.
Yeah.
This is a team in the NFC that I think is the best team.
I do too.
So to give up a lead like that, just really shocking. I was it really threw me, but I still really like the team. They're really well coached. Matthew Stafford is still playing at a really high level. I think Devontae Adams not being there probably hurt a little bit, but they can run the football. If Devontae's back, I mean, Katie bar the door because Puka is a beast. With all the controversy and things going on with him leading up to the game, I mean, he just went off. I love him as a football player. So if you could tell me Devontae's back, the defense still plays a little vanilla, in my opinion. I'd like to see him just be a little more aggressive, but I like this team. The Falcons are playing for pride right now. Kirk Cousins is playing for maybe a job somewhere else. Who knows? But they've won a couple in a row. I'm sure, this would be a huge win for the Falcons at home to maybe keep from going through that transitioning you're talking about. But I'm Rams all the way in this. I think they come out and take care of business.
Yeah, and Kirk was on this show earlier in the season. I started past him, hey, how much time do you think you got left? And he said, he thinks that he, still has a little bit of time, and I'm sure he would love nothing more than to go into next season in line for a starting job somewhere. So these last couple of weeks will be very instrumental in that. Yeah, we're in the same boat in terms of thinking that the Rams bounce back, especially if Devontae Adams is back. And look, even when he wasn't there, Puka goes off for 12 and 225 and 2 scores. So like the dude is absolutely playing out of his mind. I know a lot of the stuff for the last week and a half hasn't been the best in terms of how he's handled things. But in talking to him in the past, is a very down to earth guy who I think knows okay, I need to calm down a little bit when it comes to this stuff and maybe just take a step back. I think he will. I think that, just being a guy who's around my age, I can understand why going from 5th round pick out of BYU to star in Los Angeles would maybe be a bit of a shell shock and lead to some, decisions that you probably shouldn't make.
Yeah, he is very calm off the field. He flips a switch, and anybody capable of flipping that switch, it can get you in trouble occasionally.
Sure.
I.e. AB. There's certain guys that probably shouldn't have been as good as they were if they didn't have that switch. Puka's not the fastest. He's not the biggest. AB wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the biggest. He had no business being as good as he was for the stretch that I was there with him, but he could flip that switch. The problem is making sure you flip it back off when the game's over.
All right. I do believe that is all the games that have any sort of huge playoff implications. I guess we didn't really touch too much on the Patriots and Jets. The Patriots are 13.5-point favorites. The Jets are playing. I don't know if your son's not busy this weekend. They might play him at quarterback if they really want to. They've thrown out Brady Cook, I believe, again. This is a Jets team that we kind of know where they're at. Aaron Glenn, they're giving him time to at least try to build something, which I respect, rather than just constantly doing these 1-and-done, 2-and-done head coaches and completely restarting the process and hoping that something hits in these first 2 years. So I think that Aaron Glenn getting the amount of time to at least try to build something in New York is good. But yeah, right now their eyes are towards April and the draft. It feels like
they're looking forward. But I think Aaron has gotten his feet under him. Sure. It takes time as a first-time head coach to kind of figure it all out, especially when you don't have a quarterback necessarily. So he's getting everything in line. I'm sure he probably already knows who his guys are going to be that he's going to put in the foxhole with them going into next year. And then it's just going to be about those draft picks and being right on most of those, because that could change the team dramatically.
So this just in, by the way, from Cam Inman in San Francisco, Fred Warner excelling at his ankle rehab, where the 49ers are re-examining a potential playoff comeback. So wow. We saw that injury of Fred Warner. It wasn't pretty. If he's able to come back for the postseason, that catapults San Francisco up a few spots in terms of the NFC power rankings.
These special players, Jarrett, and you know it, they have special healing powers also. It's amazing. I've watched guys that Curtis Martin, our doctors came in after a game in 1998 and said he's got a 3rd-degree MCL. He's going to be out 8 weeks. He was on the field Wednesday, and he ran for 180 yards. The special players, they have special healing powers. I don't know what it is, but I've seen. I coached Fred Warner's brother in the USFL. He'd come out to games. This guy is a stud. I'm sure he's got some of the special healing powers, but if they could get him back, that would be monstrous.
Curtis Martin, by the way, one of the best Bermanisms of all time. Just my favorite Martin. Oh, God, I love Berman. Oh, he's the best. All right, now I think that's all the games with playoff teams or playoff fighting and everything. We both expect New England to win this handedly, I would assume. Drake May's playing out of his mind, MVP candidate. Mike Vrabel done a great job there, by the way.
Yeah, Mike's awesome. What a turnaround. But they are not as seasoned, at least at the quarterback spot and some other places. This is going to be a process for them and fun to watch how they navigate being back in this position again with a lot of new faces.
Did Mike play for you?
Yeah, I had him in Kansas City his last 2 years.
Nice.
You knew he was going to be a coach. You talk about a young first-time head coach's best friend, Mike Vrabel. I'd be on the sideline, I'm looking at the clock, and I'd hear this voice say, "Coach, 2 minutes. We got to do a bit of just running through every possible scenario. He was the best.
That's awesome. I think another guy that I think will be a head coach one day. He comes from that Saban tree. I think Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be a coach one day.
Yeah. I don't know Minka, like I know Mike, but there's certain guys you just know. I knew with Aaron Glenn, I was with him with the Jets and the Cowboys, and certain guys just have a little different way they look at the big picture.
I love it. All right, the rest of these games, this is fun. The Giants and the Raiders. The Raiders are just trying to play chess here. They're like, oh yeah, this game's for draft position. Brock Bowers, he's that injury is really bugging him. He's going to go on season-ending IR. We're Fernando Mendoza-ing and hoping that we can get the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I said it on the radio today. I don't think any coach or player thinks that way.
No,
but there are people in the front office that think that way. And I'm sure if Brock Bowers was sitting at 920 yards right now and had a chance to go over 1,000 his first 2 years, I think he's at 600 something, probably undoable at this point.
Yeah,
he'd be standing on the table fighting to play. So you never know how those things work. But
and it is incentive season, by the way. So I mean, a lot of these guys could get big paydays over these next 2 weeks, depending on what they do.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it means a lot to each and every one of those guys. And don't make no mistake, the front offices know what's at stake. Also,
was that something that you as a coach would pay attention to? Like if the game was in hand near the end of the season, you knew a guy needed like 1 or 2 catches to hit a bonus. Did you kind of focus? All right, let's try to get the ball to him.
Yeah, you usually have a GM or a PR guy that's on it and recognizes the situation that the game is in hand. If the game weren't, it would never come up. But yeah, I mean, I was in Arizona and we had Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden both had over 1,000 yards, and we had this guy Steve Breston, that needed 8 more yards, and the game was over. And the PR guy Mark Dalton came up to me and says, "Coach, Stevie needs 8 yards to get 1,000. And one of my goals as a longtime receiver coach was I wanted 3,000-yard receivers. So we threw a hitch, even though the game was over. And I got yelled at by some of the Seattle coaches, but I'm one of the few that has had 3,000-yard receivers because of that PR guy that told me to throw a hitch.
I was going to say, I don't know how many times that's been done in the NFL, but it can't be very many. I was going to say, you're still the only one?
The Colts first, and then us, I believe.
Who would it have been for? Was it Marvin, Reggie, and Dallas Clark, maybe?
No, it was Marvin. I don't think it was Dallas. They had another big timer.
Who was it? Oh, it was oh goodness. His name is escaping me right now. But somebody will know it in the comments and yell at me for not remembering who it was.
And I might be wrong. We might not be the only two, but I believe, at least as of recently, we're the only 2 teams that have done it. So
that's great. So yeah, the Raiders and Giants playing a game that will heavily impact draft positioning this weekend. The Giants are favored. With Jackson Dart, this is worth talking about. Taking a lot of hits. He's been evaluated for a concussion a lot. If you had a young quarterback like that, I mean, you had it in Ben. He wasn't necessarily a young quarterback, but a guy who took a lot of hits. What are you saying to him in these situations? Like not trying to hamper him so much, but also trying to protect him.
You just converse about it a bunch. You probably pull up clips of quarterbacks doing it in a more intelligent way. You don't want to take that stinger away, because there are going to be some plays where it is necessary to put yourself in a little more peril. But the situations that it's not that, be smart, get out of bounds, go down. So just conversations and coaching, putting clips together of just showing a ton of quarterbacks doing it the right way, going for it when they have to go for it, things like that.
The Saints and Titans also playing one another. Saints 2.5-point favorites. The Saints are on a tear, by the way. Tyler Shuck playing good football. Kellen Moore's done a really good job over this last month. Do you think that Tyler Shuck can be the guy going forward with the Saints?
I think he has a chance, and I'm sure that's what they're looking for here in these last couple games. If they see continued growth, he is still just a first-year guy, but if they see positive things happening, I like the kid. I mean, he's big, he's strong, he's athletic, he's got an NFL arm, much better runner than I thought he would be. So I think they're figuring it out right now, and then you got him going up against Cam Ward, another rookie that had his best game last week. So
yeah.
Both teams kind of doing the same thing. They just want to see growth and positivity going into the offseason, and that can do so much for a team that hasn't been very good, trying to transition to being a good team. Just how you finish the season really can make a huge difference.
Cardinals, Bengals, Cincinnati 7-point favorites at home. Obviously not going to be a playoff team. Joe Burrow and the offense had a tremendous game last week against Miami. How do you feel about the Bengals long term right now? Like, obviously, we know when Burrow's healthy that the offense is very good, but the defense over the last 2 years has been pretty brutal. It's put a really hard ceiling on them, and it's led to this conversation about, all right, maybe Joe Burrow tries to get out.
Yeah, I mean, offense, obviously, when Joe's out there, not the problem. They've paid those guys. They don't do it in a clean, orderly fashion. I think they create their own angst sometimes with some of the holdouts, like we saw with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
But they got to figure out something on defense. They had a lot of high picks, especially in the secondary, that haven't panned out. And when you miss on first, second, third rounders consistently, you got to cut bait and start doing a better job, bringing quality guys in.
Yeah,
and you let a guy like Jesse Bates out of the building. That was probably problem number one.
Yeah, and we look at everybody talks about the Chiefs over the last decade and whatnot, and how great they've been with Mahomes and Kelsey, but you also remember all the guys that they've drafted with Trent McDuffie. They drafted L'Jarius Sneed, who then went on to Tennessee. They drafted Nick Bolton. They drafted George Karlaftis, Chris Jones. Like most of their key players have been homegrown talents. So you got to have
draft and develop, and develop. And both parties need to be on the same page. GM and head coach have to be on the exact same page of what type of players the coaches are looking for. And then it's up to the talent evaluators to find the best ones of those guys.
Yeah. All right. That is every game remaining on the Week 17 slate. Yeah, we'll be back next week, both on Believe in Steelers and on the Pump Fake, to recap everything that went down. Todd, good first week of doing this with you, buddy. We're going to keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Happy holidays.
Absolutely.
Talk to you next week.
Yep. Everybody, if you're watching, please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to leave a comment, review, do all that fun stuff. And we'll be back next week right here on the Pump Fake.